Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Office of Business Diversity and Compliance webinar series for post-COVID-19 Ready Business Recovery. I'm Taylor Tagg, the Senior Business Services Coordinator with the City of Memphis at the Entrepreneurs Network Center. And we're glad that you have joined us today for this important webinar. A couple of things we want to announce before we get started. Next Tuesday, June 23rd is our We Mean Business Symposium. It's our annual event that is all virtual this year. And so if you have not signed up for that, which is it's a free event, you can look us up at Eventbrite and sign up for the 2020 We Mean Business Symposium. It'll run from about 8:30 a.m. to roughly 1 p.m. or so, and there'll be millions and millions of projects and dollars represented there. You'll have a chance to also talk to division leaders for any specific area of city government that you're interested in as well. So that's going to be a good event coming up next week. Looking forward to seeing you there. Also, if you need any assistance beyond what you're going to hear today with your business, our business navigators are ready to help you. You can get in touch with us at 636-9300 or email us at bdcinfo@memphistn.gov. We're more than happy to help you with any kind of business planning, marketing planning, anything that you're trying to do to recover from COVID-19 and get your business started again. We can help you, and if we can't help you, we can find a resource for you that can. So feel free to let us know and contact us for help. If you're with us last week, we had Dave and Annie with us talking about how to get more profit out of your business and to increase your customer base. And so today's webinar is going to continue down that same path, that financial path, because that's been such a key thing for small business owners as they're restarting out of this COVID-19 situation. Is what do I need to focus on financially in my business to get it going again? And that's why we brought in Adrienne Foster. A good friend of mine. We worked together at FedEx for many years. She's got 20 years of experience in accounting, and she owns her own business as a small business owner herself, Foster Financial Management, since 2008. She has got not only the energy to help you, but she's got also just a serious wealth of knowledge. And I know that the financial aspect and knowing what to focus on now is key for business owners going forward. And so, Adrienne, glad to have you here, and thanks for being here with us today.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction that I missed. I know that Taylor is such a phenomenal resource here for the city of Memphis. I appreciate his friendship and just his relationship as a colleague professionally as well. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to present to you all today. And, so great to have offices like the Business Diversity and Compliance Office to help provide resources to small business owners. As Taylor mentioned, I did hear the little piece where he mentioned that I am a small business owner myself. I have been in business, with my accounting practice for about 12 and a half years, but as Taylor mentioned, practicing accounting for over 20 years. So I'm passionate about seeing small business owners win. That's the heart of all of this, seeing you win, seeing you have the knowledge that you need to be successful, and that's what today is all about. So we're going to jump right in because that whole technical difficulty already took some of our time off. But today, we're going to continue on. As Taylor mentioned, you had some great resources last week from David and Annie, and today, that you can be able to use those to make solid business decisions for your business using those financials going forward. And then we're going to discuss and wrap up by talking about how do we prepare for growth going forward, and how do we also prepare for future business interruption. And then we'll wrap up today with a few minutes remaining so that we can have some Q&A. So speaking of future business interruption, I want to just start off with a quick story and some lessons learned that I have personally seen through either helping clients and just being a participant as a panelist on several webinars similar to these. The pandemic took us all by storm. We did not know how to prepare for something like this. It created an opportunity, and I say opportunity because I was able to witness so many small businesses pivot their businesses and used something that, you know, could have completely knocked a lot of us out, but they pivoted their businesses the way that they did businesses so that they could accomplish additional revenue streams in ways that they wouldn't have thought about before had it not been for the pandemic. But it also created an opportunity for looking for areas of improvement. And yes, that is an improvement, an opportunity, I'll say. We don't want to say a weakness for a business, but it is. It's an opportunity for us to look at where we are. And so by participating on several panel webinars as a panelist, so many different people were indicating like, wow, it took me by storm and I wasn't prepared. We're going to talk about one part of a way that we can prepare for an interruption is being able to use financial statements to apply for loans and grants. And what people were realizing is that they weren't prepared because they did not have those things in order that we're going to talk about today. So it's been an eye-opening moment for so many businesses. And so that's the goal for today. Let's look at how we can stay organized going forward and how we can be better prepared if this thing takes us in a way that we weren't expecting before. All right, so let's right on in. So are your financials organized? We all recognize that poor record keeping, it is the leading cause for business failure. 9 times out of 10, when you talk to a small business owner who has gone out of business, generally that reason has been because of the lack of record keeping. It's absolutely essential. And it's, you know, for you to have your financials in order, it's the heartbeat, it's the pulse of your business. It really is. In order for you to grow, in order for you to float, in order for you to know if you've made a profit or even if you're just breaking even. So adequate record keeping is absolutely vital for your business. So many times people don't even think about their records until when? Tax time, right? And so thankfully tax time has been extended this year to July 15th because of the pandemic. But I tell you what, it, I hope, gives an opportunity for business owners to get more organized. Because generally what you see, that little image there at the bottom is what the CPAs or tax accountants are getting, or right around that April 15th date, that box or that large envelope full of receipts that indicate that the small business owner didn't do an adequate job during the entire year, managing the financing, organizing the documents so that they can stay afloat. And so when we're better organized, I tell you what, the stress is so much reduced. As business owners, we're not running around calling the bank each and every day, wondering what our bank balance is. We have a greater sense of control over our business. And overall, we're able to be just more effective. We're able to keep track of what's going on, how we're performing, and how we can be successful going forward week after week and month after month, and comparing that performance year after year. So it's important that we take the opportunities to organize that data. Now, if you were in the shape, as the example I mentioned earlier, that because of the pandemic, you found yourself not being able to apply for particular loans because of not being organized, not having adequate financial statements, that's exactly why we're going to be on the call today to talk about the importance on how you can use that going forward so that you don't find yourself in that same situation. So a couple of key balance financial statements we're going to talk about today. There are 3 main ones. You have the income statement, you have the balance sheet, and you have the cash flow statement. Just going to give a brief overview so that we can walk away with a greater understanding of what these financial statements can do to assist us in our businesses, how we can use them month over month, week over week, and then over time so that we can measure that performance. First, we'll start with the balance sheet. The balance sheet just simply gives us what is our financial statement at a point in time. So at any time, the balance sheet can be run or can be calculated, but particularly on a normal basis, the balance sheet is usually reviewed on a monthly basis. So at a month end's close, you're able to look at all of your assets, your liabilities, your equity accounts as of the end of the month. And so a part of that process of reviewing that balance sheet is to go through those asset accounts and those liability accounts and be able to do a reconciliation, making sure that all of the transactions that went in and out of the banking institution, they translated over to your financials, making sure that nothing was omitted, that you got everything, that you were able to capture all of those transactions. And guess what, guys? Sometimes the banks make errors. On the other side of the banking screens are human beings, and they make errors. So by regularly reviewing your credit accounts, your banking accounts at month's end for this balance sheet review, sometimes you're actually even able to catch errors that the bank makes. And so by doing this on a regular basis, you're able to follow up. I have honestly found timely and significant errors that the bank has made on the behalf of the client. And so had we not been regularly reviewing that on a monthly basis, they may have been out of money that they wouldn't have even known or even would have discovered. So it's important to be able to review those balance sheet accounts on a monthly basis. Now, when you think about assets, what are those? The assets are anything of value that your company owns, okay? So again, that's cash, that's your bank account. Any type of physical assets are also included, like if you own the building, if you own property, if you own equipment, if you own land, those are assets that belong to your company. Now, contrary to that are your liabilities. Now, this details just how much you owe other people. This is going to detail what creditors you have. Now, they may be lines of credit through credit cards. You know, the business may have a credit account. They also may be personal lines of credit. Maybe you have to take out a commercial loan with the bank. Maybe other types of guarantee loans, notes that you may have taken out with the bank. So those liabilities and the appropriate balance at that particular time, you want to review this on a monthly basis so that you make sure that your records financially match up with those of the institutions that you borrowed with. And that goes with the every month review of those balance sheet accounts, looking at them, having them reconciled, and making sure that you're staying on course. Now, equity, that's just the remaining value of the company. At each month end, if you gain a profit, if you have a net income or net loss, that's just simply rolled into the remaining value. So what's remaining after the creditors, you know, you have your assets, and then you subtract all of your liabilities, and it just gives you the greater value of what's remaining in the company. Now, that doesn't equate to the total value of your business. If you just wanted to sell, you know, if you're making preparations to sell your company, no, it's not that simple of a formula, because business valuation goes several steps further than that. But you can have a greater understanding of the value of the company just by able to say, hey, these are the assets minus the liabilities. This is how much of value my company is at this point in time. Okay. So that's just a brief overview of how we would use the balance sheet, okay? Now looking at the next financial, and here's an example. I wanted to walk you through a little small example of these as well. Here you see cash. If you offer any type of services on account, you may have an accounts receivable for your business. Any type of prepaids, if you serve or produce a particular product or sell retail, you would keep an inventory. So those are assets of the business. So this is just an example on what an example balance sheet would look like. All right, now looking at the income statement. It's also called the profit and loss, and you may have heard this before, use that term, the profit and loss statement, but it simply breaks down how much profit your business made in that particular year, so or for that particular period. Again, reviewed on a monthly basis, but it showed you, you know, you can compare quarters, you compare an annual, you compare it month over month as well, but the revenues are how much you actually earned during the period. How much revenue did you make? How many sales did you make? How many services did you provide? What's the value of all of those services or products that you provided? And then subtracted from that, in order to get our net income, loss, or income amount, you want to categorize every single transaction paid out of the business, and those would be your expenses. The business expenses provide great benefits as a small business owner. So another reason why you want to stay organized in your financials, because at the end of the year, when it is tax time, guess what? Those deductions are so powerful for you as a small business owner to be able to deduct all of those legitimate small business expenses that you've incurred throughout the year. But going back to the monthly review, when you're categorizing every single transaction that you're processing, either through cash transactions, credit accounts, if you're using a line of credit, credit cards, All of those transactions that are related to business activity, you're tracking those, and this will be summarized on this profit and loss or income statement. And you want to review this month over month. You want to be able to look at what your profitability is. And so you're able to compare different periods. Maybe you have a seasonal business where your business spikes at certain times of the year. Maybe you're in landscape. And so you think about that. What's the busiest time for any type of outdoor business? From spring to fall. So they're going to, if they're managing their finances and tracking their financial statements, they're tracking that trend upward throughout those spring, summer, and fall months. And guess what? It helps them to plan appropriately so that they can have adequate income to pay contractors or employees during the lower months, and pivoting to some of the other services that they provide that may not be as high volume in those seasonal months. So again, every business is different, but this particular statement helps you to be able to understand how profitable you are month over month or comparing several periods. I also like to compare year over year. I am a great advocate, and any accountant would be, for you to set goals for your business. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But when you set goals for your business, you are measuring yourself against those goals using these financial statements. So for instance, say you have a goal that you want to grow 25% over last year. Well, if you're monitoring and managing these financial statements, particularly these profit and loss statement, you're able to look at the percentage of growth. You're able to compare 2019 to 2020. How has that growth been? Have you been able to accomplish those goals? Have you been able to see the spikes? Well, if you didn't hit that 25%, what percentage did you hit? It helps you to be able to make solid decisions going forward and to be able to use these income statements and the balance sheets, these financials, to be able to make decisions for years and years to come so that you can grow and expand. Here's an example of the income statement. Again, revenues are classified at the top. Here is just an example. Here's some merchandise sales, some different types of income. Most of our businesses may have several different streams of income. And so they would be broken out individually, because it's important that you manage the different types of income. Because again, when you're looking at growing your business, you want to see what segments of my business are the strongest, okay? So if you're offering several product lines or several service lines, by breaking it out, categorizing it appropriately, you're able to manage that and grow that and be able to see where you need to pivot appropriately. You know, for instance, recently I was consulting with a caterer, and she went from full 100% catering to storefront, offering lunches, you know, come in, sit down, carry out. But by managing her finances appropriately, she was able to quickly see that it was not as profitable as her business was when she exclusively focused on catering. Those are the types of decisions that you're able to do when you break out those revenue sources and look at it period over period so that you can make the appropriate comparisons. Make sense? All right, you see the expenses broken out here. These are all the typical operating expenses, okay? The cost of running your business. You have insurance expense. Your largest expense generally is going to be wages. If you rent a facility, a storefront, or a leasing space, you have rent expense. You have supplies, you have utilities. All the types of expenses are categorized here so that you can continue to operate your business, okay? Now, when you look at the bottom, net income, that's just simply taking those expenses from those revenues and looking at what is the net income for that particular month, okay? So that net income number just tells you how profitable your business is, but you see a top number right there under expenses. That's cost of goods sold. That tells you how much it actually costs to produce the product, okay? If you're providing a product or selling inventory or providing a service, whatever costs associated with creating that product, well, the gross profit is just simply the revenues minus the cost of goods sold, tells you how profitable that product is or those lines of service are. So those are key measures to help you to understand how profitable your business is and if you need to make adjustments in your business so that you can continue growing. All right. So let's go to the next one. Cash flow statement here. All right. This one I would say, and we won't spend a whole lot of time on this one because it's not typically used by a lot of small business owners. And the reason why is that most small business owners use the cash accounting method, where we recognize, using the cash accounting method, we recognize income and expenses when it actually happens, meaning when we actually receive the cash, not necessarily when we earn the sale, okay? So what I mean by that, just say you sell a product on March 1st, but you don't get paid for that product until April 2nd. Well, under the cash basis, we're going to reflect that income when we receive the payment. But under the accrual method, we're going to recognize it at the point of sale so that we match the sales during the time that we actually incur them with the client or with the customer, okay? So this cash flow statement generally is used by small business, well, by business owners, particularly larger business owners that use that accrual accounting method, but I still wanted to discuss it with you so that we have an understanding of that third most popular financial statement. But basically, it just categorizes the cash entered in and the cash entered out, okay? And it's broken up by 3 categories here. And you'll see cash flows from operating activities. What are the ins and outflows of the normal day-to-day operating business? Okay, what are those adjustments in and out? But just where we were leaving off, I was just wrapping up that cash flow statement. So as you can see here, this particular one is just broken out by those 3 categories to just be a little more direct in understanding how the cash is coming in and out of the business. And that's how we use that so that we can make those decisions appropriately. So when we look at these financial statements, as I mentioned, we're able to make business decisions that are going to help us plan for a future, help us to be prepared when we're faced with the pandemic that we're in right now, and just make solid financial decisions that are part of our ongoing process. Perhaps we're looking at different vendors and understanding hey, is this the best value for, what we're getting from this particular vendor? Do we need to research to see, if we need to look at some other suppliers? Again, we've already talked about cash flows. When you're applying for a loan, businesses are going to ask for financial statements in order for them to be able to see, hey, what's the strength of your business, so that they can guarantee that you're going to be around long enough to be able to pay them back their investment. And so when you're thinking about securing a loan, being able to expand your business, maybe, again, I mentioned earlier, maybe you're looking at investing in another large piece of machinery so that you can go larger, enhance your product line and add more products to it. Those are things that we can do to make solid business decisions regularly, staying organized, maintaining appropriate financials, and reviewing them on an ongoing basis. And it is really critical for us to be able to do that. Also, and what's most important for most small business owners, and that's really the only time they think about it generally, but it's for taxes. I tell you what, you would save yourself a lot of stress, time, and money. When you're managing your financials throughout the year, you're literally saving time when you go to that tax accountant. They have prepared, organized financials to be able to prepare your taxes. And it takes less stress off of you, less stress off of them. Your fees are lower. Everyone wants to save money, right? So your fees are lower, but you're able to have a much more solid experience when it comes to tax time, being able to not bring all of that tedious paperwork, but you've already processed that, organized it all throughout the year. So that's key as well, all right? So looking forward to how do we, mentioned, how do we become savvy as business owners, strategies for growing our business and being better prepared in case this happens to us again. So now let's look at some strategies for growing. I always recommend developing a solid plan and acting on it. We're also going to talk about growing your business with technology, how to take it that next step. If you're new to this, on implementing financial statements, again, if this was you who felt a little unprepared or caught off guard and didn't have the appropriate documents in place so that you could take advantage of those loans that were available for small business owners, you want to be able to grow your business with that technology. And then seeking the financial expertise. So if this is something that you feel like, hey, this is above my head, but I do at this point in my business have the budget that I could seek out some financial expertise and outsource this, by all means, it is absolutely required for you to do so. All right. So let's look at the importance of a plan. When you think about your business, the goal is for us to never just be willy-nilly where we want to go. If we have that frame of mind, we really prevent ourselves from being and meeting the full potential of our business. And so there's an old slogan that says you need to know where you are in order to know where you're going. So this is a little homework for when we log off today. I always like to, when we're in person, give note cards out for this, because this is such a valuable exercise for all of us to do on an ongoing basis. But I want you to write down, when we log off of here, write down, where do you see your business 6 months from now? Think about that. 6 months from now. That's a bite size that we can all digest. 6 months from now, especially coming out of this pandemic, and we're really not even out of the pandemic, but especially where we are right now, our goals look a lot different than where we set them at the end of the year. So now we can set a new plan in place. Where do we see ourselves 6 months from now? Then where do we see ourselves 1 year from now? And then what about 5 years? So then let's take that plan long term and identify areas that we want to grow in our business. And then after you've written that down, the next step on a separate sheet of paper, I want you to write down, what am I doing daily, weekly, and monthly to get there? Okay. And so what I mean by that, just say that, there is a particular new service line that you want to, offer, or you set that goal for that additional 25% growth year over year. Well, what are you doing daily? You're looking at opportunities for you to add those additional profit lines, those income streams there. That's something you can do daily and weekly in order to meet that 25% growth. Following up with customers, enhancing your marketing and advertising so that you can realize that additional sales and growth income that you're looking for. So those are the types of things that we have to plan for. We have to take those bite-sized approaches so that we can really see the growth that we're looking for. We have to roll up our sleeves. It's going to take some work, but it's really worth it. We have to do it right now. And again, during this pandemic, we've actually had to pivot quite a bit. So our plan does look different than what we originally started this year off with. But guess what? There are so much opportunity still out there for us to succeed as small business owners. So we don't want to discount the value of a well laid out plan and considering the future of our business. Okay. Secondly, we talked about, in order to be savvy and growing our business, we want to grow our business with technology. If you did not have an accounting system and you had just been keeping things on a paper base, or maybe just typing a couple of things down, trying to keep up with it in spreadsheets, maybe you've been using Excel, I challenge you to not put yourself in that position to where you find yourself overwhelmed and the books become unorganized and easy to fall by the wayside. By investing and keeping it simple with a proven accounting software that specializes for small business, you just set yourself up for so much greater success. You really do. And I always recommend a cloud-based accounting system because it absolutely provides that financial performance right there at your fingertips. And being cloud-based, as you see from the image there, you can access it from anywhere, your home, your office, from your cell phone, from your tablet. And I personally, because I've worked with QuickBooks for so long, I've compared a couple of different cloud-based accounting systems. I do highly recommend that. But some things to look for as you do your research, you want to invest in a cloud-based accounting system that's going to be able to manage your banking, your credit accounts. Many of them these days, you can connect it to those online accounts. It will bring in those transactions for you so that you no longer have to manually type those things in an Excel spreadsheet. It also helps you to be able to manage your employees, your vendors, your customer information. You're able to track your sales and income. You're able to invoice directly from these accounting software systems, your payments, your receivables, your bills, expenses, and then you're able to run these financial statements so that you can report on your financial situation on a monthly basis, especially when you're looking to apply for loans and secure additional financing so that you can grow that business, okay? Again, if you have inventory, A different cloud account, you want to compare different ones because some have greater expanded capabilities than others, but most will allow you to be able to manage your inventory and service items. QuickBooks absolutely does, and I'm familiar with that because I have worked with it. I recommend QuickBooks because, and this is just not a plug, but I can only say what I'm used to working with. They have always been the #1 best-selling in small business accounting software. They really have been. And you can have great functionality. It's a monthly subscription that is in the cloud. You don't have to back up your data day after day. And overall, it's just user-friendly. It's just user-friendly. If you don't have a payroll service and you need one, you can integrate your payroll and use QuickBooks and have a bundled package. So for small business owners, I just recommend QuickBooks Online because it's just a really full service suite that helps the small business owners stay on top of their business finances, produce adequate, up-to-date financials as you continue to categorize and review those expenses and those transactions and producing invoices. It just helps you to be able to stay on top of things so much easier than you trying to do things manually on your own, okay? Thirdly, in order for us to grow our businesses and be tech savvy or savvy as business owners, you want to get some help. If you're new and you're just starting out, I tell you what, absolutely carve out time at least once a week. That's at a minimum, at least once a week to be able to manage your business finances, sit down with your receipts, sit down with your bank statement, sit down with all of the different documents that you need to be able to categorize everything that's going in and out of your business. But when you're ready, as soon as you feel that you are financially capable to make that investment, and the reason why I say investment, because it absolutely is, it's an investment in your business for you to free up time to work on your business instead of staying up doing something that you don't feel well equipped to be able to do. I know you didn't go to school to be an accountant, but as a small business owner, when you're starting out, you have to do what you have to. But once you're able, and immediately start building in a budget to be able to outsource that, because hiring the right accountant or the bookkeeper is the complete difference between survival and having a profitable success. And I believe that wholeheartedly. It's been proven, because what a financial expert will help you to do is be able to help you understand those financial issues, anything that comes up that just falls outside of your realm of expertise, okay? And again, I talked about errors that are caught. By hiring out an accounting or a bookkeeping professional, they're able to catch errors that maybe you might miss, maybe some things that you might not know to look for, but they'll help you to be able to understand those financial statements and then free up that time for you to get back into doing what you absolutely love. And that's running your business, creating amazing products and services to your customers day in and day out. So it's critical. So lastly, we'll wrap up talking about how do we prepare for future business interruptions? Again, we couldn't prepare for this. However, I have been absolutely amazed at so many businesses that I've seen to pivot. As I mentioned earlier, they were able to step outside of the box, be innovative, and say, okay, we've had to shut down our storefront. We've had to close our doors from allowing customers to walk through our retail spaces. What can we do? One particular establishment, as an example, that I frequent, I'm a great fan, I go all the time. And one of the things that it's a retail space. It's an antique thrift vintage shop. Love it, right here in my particular area. And they started an online auction every single day. And what the business owner, after we were able to, go back and talk after the doors began to open up, she mentioned that it was some of the greatest opportunities presented for her to think outside of the box. And guess what? She was more profitable during the pandemic than she was pre-pandemic. So this is one time that we can sit back and say, what are some lessons learned? In what ways did we pivot our business so that we can go forward with greater strategies for growth? What are some things that we feel that we didn't do as well, that we weren't so prepared for? And going forward, how do we put ourselves and position ourselves in a better situation so that we can avoid it going forward? Some of the things that came up in some of these panelist calls and talks with clients are those agreements that we have with lending institutions, landlords. That was a hot topic throughout this entire concourse, and it's still an ongoing topic, because guess what? Even if you had to close your doors, a lot of times the rent was still due. So it starts with that conversation and constant communication, looking at the terms of agreement, reaching out to those vendors sooner than later to discuss, hey, is there a possibility that we can renegotiate my rent costs? Maybe we, defer it so that we can tack on some at the end, where they can spread off rental costs for a future period to help you to be able to absorb the expense when you're back to earning income versus right now when you're struggling or strapping or just trying to make ends meet in other ways. All right. And also investigating what forms of relief might be available. If you were able to get an emergency injury disaster loan, the EIDL is what it's abbreviated as. That was a loan that was initiated by the Small Business Administration to help so many small business owners to be able to keep their doors open, keep their employees gainfully employed, to be able to feed their families. The Payroll Protection Program, PPP has been the name of the game. And I tell you what, if you were able to be in a position where you can get those types of relief, so grateful that you were able to do that. If you were not, by doing these things that we've discussed on this webinar today, you will be. Unfortunately, we don't see, if you're looking at the news every day, we don't see the end very near. So we definitely want to put ourselves in position so that if those relief sources become available again, we will be in a position so that we can take advantage of which types of, there are different grants that were available. Of course, PPP and EIDL that were available. But also investigate what your insurance. There are certain insurance providers that have business recovery as a part of their insurance policies for businesses. So those are some types of things that you want to do your research on. Investigate what type of relief is available, okay? And as we finalize, a word of encouragement. Again, we never knew we were going to be at this place, and some of us find ourselves a bit overwhelmed still. But I tell you what, there's a slogan here, a quote here by J. Pierpont Morgan. It says, the first step towards getting somewhere is to decide that you're not going to stay where you are. If you've been in a position where you have felt unorganized, you did not utilize financials to be able to adequately manage your business, take control of your business, feel that sense of control, make decisions, expand and grow, use those financials to make a plan for strategies beyond month over month, but looking at 1 year, even 5 years, because remember, that's your homework. 5 years from now, looking at where you want to be. The first step is to decide that you're not staying right here. So I encourage you to reset, refocus, and restart. So we're going to open up the last few minutes. I think we have a couple of minutes for some Q&A. If we can use the chat feature, or if anyone can come off maybe their microphone. Taylor, are we going to use the chat or the microphone?
We'll use both. If you want to type something in chat, feel free. If you want to unmute yourself and talk directly with Adrienne, feel free. And Adrienne, I'll throw this question out for you because, for a lot of business owners, accounting statements, they're intimidating because they just necessarily don't know exactly what's all on it, and it's hard to understand. So can you talk a little bit just about, if you employ an accounting software, you start to begin to learn the language of business little by little, step by step over time, to where these things begin to make sense a little bit after a little bit of time. Absolutely. And can you hear me okay? General statement on that.
Yeah, for sure. Can you hear me okay? You were breaking up a little bit. I want to make sure that I'm coming through clear. Okay, so that's excellent. You know what? I always recommend that's where the expertise, even if you just call on, say you sign up for QuickBooks or another accounting software tomorrow, and you begin to start to categorize those expenses and start invoicing and start keeping up with this, and then you hit that little button that says produce a balance sheet. Then you have that look on your face like, now what? What am I supposed to do with that? And you're absolutely right, Taylor. Most small business owners are completely overwhelmed with that. And so that's where reaching out to a financial expert, an expert who has that expertise to be able to break those things down. And that's why I tried to keep it kind of at a summary level when we went over that. When you think about a balance sheet, you think about, okay, this is really just what I own and who I owe, and then what's remaining in the business after I've paid those things and after I've acquired inventory or kept money in the bank. So you want to be able to acquire information or acquire consulting expertise from those professionals that will help to break it down like that. And I can tell you what, for me working with my clients over the years, I, produce their financial statements, but I also require for them to be on a call, or now we're having to do all the Zoom meetings, but we used to do it in person or on calls where we would go over those financials. So when you're ready to hire that expert to help you and you're outsourcing that bookkeeping to someone else as an accounting professional, bookkeeper professional, make sure that you include, hey, I want you to go over these things, because guess what? Accounting really can be fun once you understand it. So you want to be able to understand, get the right expertise to help to break those things down. Again, when you think about a profit and loss, it's just simply remembering, hey, this is all the income coming in and all of the operating expenses that I needed to incur or to spend in order for me to do my day to day. And I encourage you to not run from it. And I'll tell you the reason why I say that. That's the greatest piece of advice, because a lot of times small business owners, they're fearful, and so they feel like, okay, I'll avoid it. Avoidance is not the answer. Please hear me clearly. Avoidance is not the answer. Do not want you to avoid diving into these financials because you're afraid. Going back to that quote there, make a decision that, hey, you may not be where you want to be, but decide that you're going to do something today to move forward. And so that's the first step. Attack that fear. Don't be fearful. Ask questions. Don't stay in the blind, because that's the first hurdle to becoming a savvy business professional and a small business owner that's, geared up for success. Not being afraid to ask those questions and to dive in to see what they mean. Does that help, Taylor?
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. And then Jasmine, I did ask how can we contact you for future services?
Yes. Hey. Here's my information. The best way is to, and I'll add to the chat here. I'm going to put my email address. Okay. Okay, guys, I have added my email address there. And I'm now typing my cell phone number, which is my business number. But yeah, feel free to please reach out to me. We can set an appointment. We can have a consultation to see where you are with your business needs. What have you learned from this particular webinar that will help you to have the light bulb moment so that you can go forward and make those appropriate changes? You're welcome, Jen and Jasmine. Let's see, what other questions do we have?
Yeah, we got time for one or two more.
Yeah, again, let's do it.
This replay it will be available to you if you registered through Eventbrite. We'll email it out to you, and it'll put my editing skills to the test, but it'll be smooth, I assure you. Okay, awesome. I appreciate that. I tell you what, I apologize again to everyone that's attending for the Comcast issues. It's never happening at a convenient time, that's for sure. Okay, Jen said that she owns a travel agency and was questioned by guests that have booked but are postponing in terms of what happens if I go out of business, how are their deposits protected? This is an excellent question, Jen. Do you have examples of insurance companies? I do not. I'll be honest, I do not. But what I have been learning is that, and here's the thing that, again, when we think about, we never would have thought that we would be in this place. So we don't think about, oh my gosh, was this even a question to ask in the future? I've been a part of organizations that have been in that similar situation, Jen, where we have booked facilities and we weren't able to get our deposit back. And it put us in a cash strap because we were a nonprofit organization. I serve on the board of my kids' PTO. And then a couple of other organizations that I heard were having similar things. So I think that is what a lot, and some people that were struggling with this with weddings,
proms. So I'm sure you've heard a consistent theme around that. While I don't know particular insurance companies as specifics, there may be other avenues that you might be able to research through the SBA. And Taylor may be able to speak to that too, because I'm sure that their office has been inundated with requests like that, because of them being connected to the SBA as a small business development center, and being able to connect them with resources to help them to be able to stay afloat and stay in business so that they're not caving once it's time for things to be postponed. Because you're right, travel has been postponed. Events are canceled, weddings, graduations, everything has been impacted here. And people are struggling on both ends, trying to recoup the deposits, but then the companies are saying, but hey, I want to hold on to this because this is going to be my livelihood. So I hate that I don't have a specific insurance agency in mind, but one of the things that I've consistently been researching is that, hey, look for those now. It's kind of like when we have gotten a fear here in the city of Memphis that, a potential earthquake because we're on a fault line. Well, you don't think about having earthquake insurance until they start talking about a scare with it, right? So it's one of those things that we'll continue to reach out and ask those questions from our providers.
Yeah, and at the City of Memphis Business Navigators, if you're looking for some kind of plan to help move your business forward, we can provide it. In whatever area of business you think you're lacking in, if you need a plan of some sort, we can help you put one together, and that's all free of charge.
Awesome. You're welcome, Jen. All right, I think that was our last question, is it? Anyone else? I think we're right at 1:01 now. I think a lot of people may be having to get back to work.
Yeah, well, Adrienne, thanks so much for joining us. This has been very informative and really learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Taylor, for the opportunity, and thank you all so much for taking time out of your day to join in with Taylor and myself so that we can all be better and all grow together. So I appreciate your time today, and I bid you the best day ever and the best remainder of your week.